Okay, hello, and welcome to a list of my favorite video game music to go along with the favorite video games list I made a few days ago. All of these are on my music channel, Greg's Retro channel. Have been thinking about re-uploading them to my video game channel, but nah. I will in the next few days though organize playlists to make them easier to find amongst all the other music videos and music audio files there. In the meantime, as you can tell at number 10, it's called The Hero Goes Forth, but it's basically the overworld theme of Dragon Quest XI. Good song, but the problem with these RPG overworld themes is by the time you're done with the game, you're kind of sick of hearing them. You've heard them songs pretty much more than any other song in the game. You spend a lot of time in the overworld, whether it's going from town to town, town to dungeon, or just grinding. Of course, like I said in my favorite video games list video, this is one of the games I'd love to do a playthrough of for my gaming channel, but as of right now, that's not a possibility, since I don't have any kind of capture device for my Switch. And while capture devices for the Switch do exist, since I have the Switch Lite model, I don't think they'd work on that one. So yeah, there's that too. Anyways, of course, I'll also put it, since I have all of these songs I'll be playing on this video on my music channel, I'll also put a link to them in the description of this video. Anyways, ooh, dang it, didn't hit it fast enough. At number 9, from Final Fantasy Vii, it's called Ahead on Our Way on the soundtrack, but it's basically the overworld theme of Final Fantasy V. My second favorite Final Fantasy game, the one that didn't get released here in North America for 7 years. Initially released on the SNES, or the Super Famicom in Japan, in the fall of 1992, but didn't make its way to North America until the fall of 1999 on the PlayStation. Why? I wish I knew. People have theorized it was because of job class mechanics, but when you think about it, Dragon Warrior 3 had that same job class system, and it was released in America. Of course, I brought that up once before, and somebody pointed out that different companies. Dragon Warrior 3 was Enix, this is Squaresoft. Two halves of the same company today, since 2003, but at the time, not the case. So I don't know. But for whatever reason, yeah, this wasn't released officially for 7 years. Anyways, again, of course, while the overworld themes are good, they do tend to get a little annoying after a while because you spend a good majority of the gameplay on the overworld, going from town to town or grinding. Right. At number 8, from Final Fantasy VII, my favorite RPG, second favorite game of all time altogether. The first song on this list that's not an overworld theme, Tifa's theme as it's called. Played several times throughout the game, but first heard when you first meet Tifa's character in game at that bar, the Avalanche Gang's hideout, where she reminds Cloud of the promise he made to her 5 years before the in-game events started. And I know for some fans of the game this is kind of an odd pick, but I mean, I could have made a top 10 list just from this game alone. So many good music tracks in this game. I mean, there's the Chocobo racing, which is a quirky, catchy thing that, like the overworld themes, gets a little annoying if you do the Chocobo Chocobo breeding side quest. How many times you have to race Chocobos for that? There's Cosmo Canyon. There's so many good music tracks in this game. I could have made a top 10 from just this game alone. That's, one of the reasons I, personally disagree with the idea that the graphics sold this game. The music tracks were good too, but they often get overlooked when people just focus on how ahead of its time the graphics were, which is definitely true. Like I said in my favorite games list, this being my first 3D game personally, going from NES and SNES and Sega Genesis to this was quite the step up in graphics. I don't pretend to deny that. But if the graphics were the only good thing about the game, it wouldn't still be as highly regarded today. Well, with the graphics on this game now being primitive by today's standards, if the graphics were all it had to offer, so to speak, no one would even care about the game anymore now. It still wouldn't be getting such high regard as it does if the gameplay and the music weren't as good. Of course, those are things I'll be talking about in more detail when and if I can ever do a playthrough of this, if I can ever get those OBS capture problems sorted out and corrected. Of course, speaking of Final Fantasy playthroughs, I've already done 2 videos for Final Fantasy V, so that's going to be my next game in this franchise. Probably start uploading those as soon as I'm done with either Portrait of Ruin or Dragon Warrior 2, whichever happens first. Probably. Since I can't do a playthrough of this game yet, as much as I'd love to. Yeah. Of course, I've said before and I'll say again, I'm glad Squaresoft kept trying to popularize RPGs during that time. Whereas Enix, the other half of today's Square Enix, kind of gave up after Dragon Warrior 4 failed to catch on. 5 and 6 weren't released in North America. They're not selling well enough. We won't even bother bringing them here. Square, on the other hand, kept trying with their Final Fantasy franchise, Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, Illusion of Gaia. So many good RPGs. Finally, with this one, doing what they'd been trying to do for years, popularize RPGs in North America. Anyways, at number 7, from Ocarina of Time, my favorite video game of all time, Kokiri Forest. One of the first songs you hear in the game, at the starting point of the game, the aforementioned Kokiri Forest. Now I know when people talk about this game, it's usually not this, but the Spirit Temple or the Forest Temple dungeon music themes, which are good, don't get me wrong. But this one, well, for the longest time, since a lot of the games I was playing didn't really have very good music tracks, I would always just turn the sound down on my TV and put on whatever rock album I was into at that point in time, and that would be my music for the playthrough. Right up until 1998, early 99, when I started playing this game. This being one of the first tracks you hear. Yeah. Long story short, it brought back my interest in video game music, which is one of the reasons why Ocarina of Time is why I regard that game so highly. The music on it, just like with Final Fantasy VII, I could easily make a top 10 list from just this game alone. Yeah. Again, probably not a choice from this game, but I had to include this just for the fact that, again, it renewed my interest in video game music at that time. Too bad it's so short, though, barely over a minute. Just loops over. At number 6, the pub theme from Dragon Quest VIII. One of those songs that a lot of times when I'm playing the game, I'll just sit and listen to the music for a few seconds before I actually do whatever it is you're there to do in game. Again, one of those tracks that you don't hear too many fans of the game soundtrack talking about, but I've always liked it anyways. Of course, it was a close decision, or however you want to put that, tough decision between this one and the game's overworld theme, but I do like this one more, and I didn't want this to just be overworld themes. This one, if I'm not mistaken, also plays in some of the bars and pubs in Dragon Quest XI as well. At least in a couple of them, I remember hearing this while playing 11. Okay, they brought that back. Cool. Nice touch. Way to go, soundtrack department. Or however you put that. At number 5, from Majora's Mask, the Stone Tower Temple theme, which is also my favorite dungeon in that game. I like the whole inverted upside down mechanic, and how even though, you know, in a lot of games you spend a lot of time backtracking in those dungeons, going through rooms you've already been through, but in that game, unless you're paying attention to the background graphics, you might not even realize it's a room you've already been to. Like how when the temple is right side up, the room is flooded. When it's upside down, inverted, you got those air jets. And all that, while listening to this, again, makes for my favorite dungeon in this game. The only downside to this dungeon I can think of is the Elegy of Emptiness, which by the time you even get to the dungeon itself is already worn thin on your patience, having to do that so many times. Then you got to do it at least a couple more times in this dungeon too. But oh well. Alright. At number 4, from Breath of the Wild, the Stable theme. The song that I think I played in the favorite video games list video when talking about this game. I mean, granted, I agree with the common consensus that the soundtrack could have been better. Could have had more classic Zelda tracks like Kokiri Village from Ocarina of Time or A Link to the Past for Kokiri Village. Had the Lon Lon Ranch theme from Ocarina of Time or the Romani Ranch theme from Majora's Mask play out when you're in the ranch remains in Central Hyrule Field in this game. You know, stuff like that. There are ways they could have made the soundtrack better. I do agree with that, but there are still some good soundtrack songs in this game. Like this one. I mean, a lot of fans would probably disagree with even rating this on a top 10 at all, much less the upper half of a top 10, but oh well. Just one of those songs like the Dragon Quest VIII pub theme. A lot of times I'll stop playing and just listen to the music for a while before I do anything. Go talk to Beetle or whatever it is you're going to do in that stable. Alright, back to Ocarina of Time again. I truly wanted to make this just one song per game, but with this game I just couldn't. I had to have both Kokiri Forest and the Spirit Temple on here. I mean, again, that's one of the reasons this game is still rated so highly. I personally still rate this game as highly as I do. It wasn't my first Zelda game. That was the first one back in '88 when it was the only Zelda game out in North America. You know, it wasn't this childhood nostalgia like I said before. I was already 26, almost 27 years old by the time this game came out. No, the music, along with the gameplay, are what made the game so memorable for me, and what keeps it as my favorite game still to this day, even though a lot of great games have come out since. Kind of like with Majora's Mask, Stone Tower Temple earlier. This is my favorite dungeon of this game, like I said in my playthrough of it. Probably my favorite dungeon in all of Zelda history combined. And the music, well, kind of calming. Not exactly really upbeat, but then again, whoever says every video game music track has to be. As far as gameplay mechanics, I really like how this dungeon takes advantage of the dual time settings, 9-year-old Link and 16-year-old Link, making you have to go through parts of the dungeon in both. Kind of like one of the dungeons in Oracle of Ages, rather. Almost said Ocarina of Time. This is Ocarina of Time I'm talking about. In Oracle of Ages, there's another dungeon that I won't say for spoiler reasons for anybody watching this that hasn't played Oracle of Ages yet, but yeah. One of the dungeons in that game, you have to go through it in both time frames, both time settings. I like that. If you're going to have a game with 2 different time settings, have go through at least one of the dungeons in both of them. As far as gameplay goes on this one, the only thing I don't really care for, like I said in my playthrough of the game itself, is that room with the 3 different puzzles, pushing the blocks in place so that you can light the torches. Collecting all the silver rubies, and then moving that last block in place so that the beam shines on it. Too many puzzles for just one room. They could have spread that out through 3 different rooms. That and the fact that I still think the developers goofed on that. They have you fighting a Stelphos as a kid and a Wolfos as an adult. Should have been the other way around, but I mean, I get it. They were going for challenge. Having you fight a Stelphos as a kid definitely made the child portion of the dungeon more challenging. Of course, when I played through the game, I used the temporary invincibility, Nehru's Love magic spell. So yeah, I cheesed that when I played through the game for my playthrough of it, but anyway. Alright, at number 2 from Super Metroid, my favorite Metroid game, and 3rd favorite game of all time overall, Ridley's Lair, or Lower Norfair. Yeah. Both this game and in the 3DS version of Samus Return, or of Metroid 2 Samus Returns, where they have this theme in every super heated hot room throughout the game. Oftentimes I'll just put the controller down and listen to the music, like the stable theme in Breath of the Wild or the pub theme in Dragon Quest VIII. And yes, I know this theme also appears in whatever the heated air, the lava area in Prime. I forget the name of it, but something caverns, Magmar caverns or something like that. I know it also plays out in that game too, but for me it'll always be Super Metroid music. And that's part of the appeal of it in Metroid Samus Returns. Hey, cool, Super Metroid music. I mean, this is enough. Well, I probably couldn't have filled out a top 10 with just songs from this game. But I could have easily added like Brinstar's theme. Yeah, well, Brinstar for sure, maybe a couple others. The only problem I have with this is that it's so late in the game. Well, of course, I guess you can say the same thing with Stone Tower Temple and Zelda and Spirit Temple and stuff, and Ocarina of Time, so yeah. Now that I think about it, I kind of just defeated my own argument. All right. Speaking of Samus Returns, the 3DS remake of Metroid 2, one of these days I'm going to get around to playing Metroid 2 for the channel. Still haven't decided if I'm going to play the Game Boy original, Samus Returns 3DS, or the fan-made version AM2R. Probably, since lately I've been going for original versions of games, I'll probably do the Game Boy original first, then do one of the remakes later. Anyways, alright, before going on with number 1, a couple of songs that almost made the list, but from Secret of Mana, Super Nintendo game from 1993, second of the Setsu, whatever, however you pronounce, Seiken Desetsu, however you pronounce that, franchise in Japan. Second, weird name, but oh well. Good game though. But yeah, Secret of Mana here. Another one of those games I hinted at earlier. Well, Enix was closing down its North American branches by 93. Square kept plugging away trying to popularize RPGs with games like this one. So this is honorable mention, I guess you'd say. Close to top 10, but not quite. But I do like this one enough to mention it. Another honorable mention of sorts, close to top 10 but not quite, from the Minish Cap, the Temple of Droplets, Water Ice Dungeon theme, the song I played in my favorite video games list video while talking about this game. Again, another game that I could have put several songs from on this list. There's this one. There's Hyrule Field. There's Hyrule Market Town. Yeah. Several good music tracks in this game. Probably, as far as the music goes, the best Zelda, handheld Zelda soundtrack. In my opinion, anyways. Alright. Another one that could have made the list if I was doing like a top 20 or 30. From the Game Boy Color game Oracle of Ages, released in 2001 along with Oracle of Seasons. Lina Village, present time. I mean, it may not sound the best, but you gotta remember it was for the Game Boy Color. There was only so much they could do with the game soundtrack given the audio technology of the handheld console they were making it for. Okay, what the heck? Oh. Anyways, now for the number one. One of those choices that's going to make a lot of people wonder what the heck I'm thinking. Why that one? What? But, yeah. Number one, in my opinion. Disagree if you will, and that's, okay, you're right to your opinion. But primarily based 99% on nostalgia for the game that, not only did a lot for gaming historically, but for me, kept my interest in gaming alive when I was near close to giving up on video games with all the linear games of 1987, 88. If this game had been as linear as some of the others, I probably wouldn't even care about video games today. So yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia in this one. The overworld theme from the original Zelda game. So yeah, for whatever it's worth, my favorite video game music tracks. Anyways, let me know in the comments if you have a list of best video game music. And if you're going to disagree with this one, that's fine, but at least be polite about it. Don't get all vulgar. I mean, it's only video game opinions. Nothing to be rude and obscene about. Anyways, as always, thanks for watching.